In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to build and deploy this full stack application which searches for sessions in a conference. So we have a Session Explorer application. I can give it a query saying, hey, I want a session on making apps. It's going to use RAG to search through some documents, and then it's going to return some results in a widget, and I can save each one of these sessions to my Outlook calendar if I want to. So it gives me an event invite, and then it summarizes the response as well. So in order to create this, we're using Mastra and CopilotKit. So to bootstrap this application, I started with the Mastra starter project inside the CopilotKit GitHub repository, and I have that checked out here. And yeah, so this is just a copy of that sample application. You just have to specify in the .m file your OpenAI API key. And so let me just demonstrate what we have here. So we have a Next.js application. All of the front end is here, just in this one file. It has the CopilotKit components, and that accesses an API. The API is defined here, and the API, the Next.js API here, is then going to connect to Mastra, and the Mastra implementation is defined here. So we have a Mastra instance, and the instance has one agent. So to summarize, the agent gets called by the API, and then the API gets called by the user interface in the Next.js application. So before we can actually start using this, there's one thing I want to do, I usually do with Mastra right at the start, which is I just make things a little bit simpler. Mastra actually has its own server which it will deploy, but we can, because we already have a Next.js server here, rather than fetching, basically routing everything from Next.js to Mastra, we can just directly import the Mastra instance into our Next.js application. So we don't have to deploy a separate server. So that makes things simpler. So now I'm ready to just pm install. And then I can pm dev. And we have our application here. I can say hi. Okay, and I can say change background to blue. Okay, so the Mastra CopilotKit app is working, and let's move on to the next step. So for the next step, I'm just going to, instead of having here using the default Next.js API, I'm just moving it to Hono, which is a wrapper on Express. It just makes things a little bit simpler and more extensible, which just means that rather than using the existing hard-coded URL here, we use the URL to the Hono server. So now if I just pm install, then yeah, that's all that's needed for that step. So then for the next steps, I basically was just playing around, doing some investigating how things work, and also updating the dependencies. So I'm going to skip forward to, yeah, so you can see there's not that much here, just updating Mastra and updating CopilotKit. and then playing around a bit as well, doing some of my own investigating. And now we're basically ready to start actually building this sessions application. Now we have all the packages updated. So the first thing we're going to do is actually try to search these documents. So I just asked ChatGPT, hey, can you give me a fake conference schedule? And it gave me a markdown. I just put that in a PDF file, and yeah, this is all this is what it gave me, just fake data basically. And now I want to actually be able to search that document using Mastra. So what I have here is a embed document script. I'll get into a bit more detail what this is doing later, but essentially it's just going to create embeddings so that we can easily search this document semantically. So we can say like, hey, this is the vibe of conference I'm looking for, and it will understand without having to have an exact text match. So we can embed the documents. So that's what this script is doing. So if I now install all the new packages, and you'll see in the package JSON, I have this new script, and I can say pm embed docs. And actually, it's not going to embed any documents, because unlike AgentKit, or when you do this in the OpenAI, when you do this in the OpenAI dashboard, you can just add PDFs. Here, we would have to pass those PDFs manually, or rather, we have to pass them, using code that we've written. So in order to just move ourselves forward, I'm going to provide instead here a markdown file. And the markdown file just has the same conference schedule again. So now when I run pm embed docs, it's actually going to find 20 chunks. It's going to chunk that markdown file up and then embed it into our embeddings. And then once we have that, so we run that basically whenever we get new documents. And then now I actually updated my agent. So the agent now has a tool call and has instructions in the system prompt how to use it. So I have this vector query tool, and we tell the agent like, hey, you have access to this vector query tool. You can use it to search for sessions and give the user relevant information. So in the vector query, so this is a nice thing about Mastra, it uses Zod. So we have a strict structure for what our tool is expecting. It's expecting a query from the user. And then we're going to use this, we're going to embed our query similar to how we embedded the documents, and then use that embedded query to do a semantic search on the documents and return some results. And these results here are just like unordered text, like not structured at all, just like a bunch of relevant information, which we're then going to display to the user. So let's do that. Let's show an example. So so now this is here, refresh. Now I can say, I want a session on making apps, and it's going to do the tool call. So it's going to return some sessions from the markdown file which was embedded, and then those are displayed to the user. Great. So that tool call is now working, but we want to be able to support not just markdown files but also PDFs. So I'm now going to do that step. So in order to do that, it's quite simple. We just have to basically say if the document we're trying to encode is a PDF file, then we'll use an existing node library to pass the PDF and then embed that instead. So yeah, it's just like a pre-step to embedding the text. And now if I run my embed docs script again, need to install those libraries, and then also I need to, because it's going to create a vector database, and later on I fixed this error so I don't have to create this folder. But now it's going to complain if it doesn't have a place to save the data. So here we go. You now see it's passed 2 documents and it's generated chunks. So great, we now have the embeddings saved in the vector store. And next I want to, actually because I want to deploy this, I don't really want to use libsql. I'm going to use Postgres instead. So instead of using a libsql vector store, I'm going to switch it to Postgres, which is super simple. All we have to do is, so before we were using the Mastra libsql vector store, we just switched that to the Postgres vector store, both in the embedding and then also in the query. So we switched to this instead. And now if I run, and here with this connection string is actually a deployed, it's just coming from Neon. It's quite easy to spin up a database, Postgres database in the cloud for free. So we just need to install again. And then I can again embed docs. And now I can actually show a bit better what that embedding is doing. So I can see in my database. So for example, if I come in here and I delete all of these embeddings and then come back into here and run the script again, then we can see that it's processed 2 files, and we should see all these embeddings in our database. So what this has done is it's split the documents into 30 or into 60 or so chunks, and each chunk is then embedded as a vector. So all this text here is embedded, which means that then when we do a search, which says maybe not November, but like, I don't know, month before December or something, right? It has a semantic closeness to this data, this embedding, and then it can do the search like that. So that's high level how this embedding works. And that means that we can now search those documents. So the next step, because I then wanted to deploy this next, is just to add all the deployment code. I'm going to, so let's go here. So you can see in the README what I'm actually doing here. But essentially this is just like it looks like it is a lot of new code, but it's basically the code to deploy, and then we moved the actual application into a sub package. So if I go to the README, this is how we set up, and basically we see now we have the SST app. SST is a infrastructure as code tool, and then we have the web app, which is where I've now moved the front end app. So all I've really done is move the app into a monorepo and added some deployment code. Then I also need to move the M file, because it no longer has to be in the root, it now has to be here. And then yeah, now it's actually ready to deploy after installing everything again. So we can see here, that's how we deploy. And now I'm going to deploy the application. It's going to use OpenNext, which allows you to deploy a Next.js application to Lambda. I'm not going to go into any of these details because this session is not about deploying. But if you are interested, you can have a look in this SST app, how this works. Okay, and then now we have the deployed application. If I open it here, we should basically have the same thing. Hi, I want a session on making apps. and it again uses the vector store to search. Okay, great. So deployment works and it uses the Postgres database. If I wanted to change the documents, I don't actually have to deploy again. I can just run the embed script locally with different documents, and then those embeddings will be updated for the vector tool on the deployed app. For the next steps, I just did some general setup. I basically added some Claude code setup. Let's see what's in here. I was experimenting here. So I added some MCPs, which is mentioned in the presentation I can show it here. Basically in this step, I was adding these MCP servers so that basically you can start to vibe code with this a little bit because there's a doc server for Mastra, for ShadCN, which I'll use in a minute, and also for CopilotKit. So it's helpful if you want to just move fast and use Claude Code or Cursor to build stuff. That's all that happened in that step. And then for the next step now, what we want to do actually in this step is I added ShadCN, which is a nice component library and tested it out to make sure it's working. So this allows you to just build nice UI components and very quickly. And also it's very well understood by Claude, or basically any agents, so it's very nice to use. Yeah, so in this section, what I'm doing is I am returning the formatted response object. So what this means is, because I now want to display this search result in an actual nice way, so let's do a demo of how this looks now. And when I do a search, so here I say I want a session on making apps. Yeah, so we can see that instead of just sending the result to the agent, we actually now have a handler for saying when someone tells this call, this is how we want to format and display the data. And we wait for the response. Okay, so we can see that the result is now an array, and if I go to my agent here, then we now have this, instead of using the vector tool, we have this search sessions tool instead. So what this is actually doing is, let me move this down so we can see it a bit better. This agent is actually going to ask the this is an agent which is going to receive the output from the tool and then format it nicely. So what that means is, in the vector query, we have instead of having just the raw search sessions tool, we have the search documents, and search documents is going to do the same as before. So it's going to do the search for the unformatted results, but then it's going to actually get another agent and then use this format agent to pass the results. So this result here is the same as before. This is the unstructured result from searching the documents. And then we get the format agent, and the format agent is going to actually take the result of the first function, and then format it nicely. So we can see that in the prompt for this format agent, we say, hey, you will receive things in this kind of unstructured way, which is going to be like this. This is how you receive the data. And then I want you to return a JSON object, and you need to format them nicely like this: title, time, room, speakers, description, etc. And then you just say, I only want the JSON. I don't want you to use Markdown or anything else. So that's now why when we search, we get this result like this instead of the like just general text we got before. We now get it in a structured way. So now actually, how do we get that displayed to the user? Basically in this page, what I've done here is I have down here this use Copilot action. And what that does is it hooks into, hey, when this search session tool action gets called on the back end, I want you to actually render out this output. So normally if you don't do this, it will just return it to the agent. But here we actually control how we're going to display this UI. Okay. Let's just check over anything else changed. So yeah, we have schema for all of this. So again, this is defined in Zod. So we have a schema for searching for the formatted results, etc. And yeah, then we format it and return it to the agent. So now we want to actually display this in a nice way. So rather than just having it like displayed in this UI, we want to build a nice user interface for it. So and then actually, let's see what we do in the cleanup here. Anything important? Okay. So basically here, we're just going to actually define a sessions widget, and we're going to use a separate component for it. So actually the app still looks exactly the same, but we're just defining a separate component for our session widget. So this here says, hey, when this search sessions tool is called, this is how you should render the output. And we've defined a component for it, which is just going to receive the arguments and the result, and then show the result here. So now I've done that, I can use ShadCN UI to actually make a nice widget, so it doesn't look just like the raw JSON. So we need to do again a pm install. And reload. Yeah, so now it's displayed in this nice way. So basically we have this compact sessions widget, which replaces just our very ugly JSON response. And this was made completely with V0, so I didn't write this. And I basically just said, hey, I want a session widget. I gave it the schema I expected, and then it built this nice little UI for me. So right now, if I click this, it's just mocked. If I click save, then we can see that. So we want to actually hook up in our compact sessions widget. We have a save event, handle save, and right now it's just mocking, so it sleeps for 2 seconds and then yeah, returns saved. But we want to actually now integrate that client-side action. So let's go next. So in order to do this, we just now import the, we have an onSave function, which is going to be used, and then we define the save session here. So yeah, Next is quite nice. It allows you to just call out a function on the, it's called a server action, and we can do that here with this download calendar event. So we have this download calendar event thing here. And this is going to receive the session and then pass it and return it as a calendar event to be downloaded. So let's test this. Okay. So again, I'm going to ask, I want a session on making apps. So yeah, we see we have these things, and when I click save, then I get this calendar event. So let's see the iCalendar event. There's this site here which we can use, and I drop that here. Okay, so it's okay. It's created the iCalendar event, but we can see it's kind of wrong. It says that it starts on the 1st of October at 1 p.m. And ends at 3 p.m. Whereas if I refer to my actual markdown file, let's see, in the markdown here, well, obviously it's supposed to be on the 6th of November. Let's see, is the time correct? The time is correct, 1 till 3. Yeah, but the date is wrong. So how do we fix this? So yeah, I mean, this is the problem. Like, this is probably, you shouldn't do this, right? Because we're basically trying to do something deterministic, which is when the sessions are, and we could probably already know that, and then we're trying to like work it out from parsing raw text. And there's probably a better way to do that, which would be to actually basically give the agent like, these are the sessions that are available, and then just use the searching to do a semantic search, but actually always return fixed dates. So the fix I have here is okay, it's not the best, and I'll fix it better later, or maybe in another video. But basically a fix that you can do, which demonstrates quite well how these agents work, is we basically add to the prompt like, hey, we want times in this format. And we basically say like, event times must be between 6th of November and 7th of November. If you are unsure, then assume that it's on the first day, or yeah, basically guess which day it's on, right? Which is obviously not something you should really do, but for now it's gonna fix the problem. So let's try again. Let's do again, hey, I want a session on making apps. Oh, wrong application. Okay, so now we can see that the times are correct. And if I save this, and let's go here. And now we can see that it has guessed that the time is going to be 9 a.m. It's still not great because it's, oh no, I think it has got the end time right as well. So let's see, is this correct? Opening talk, Q&A and intro. Let's see if we can find it in the original text document. And okay, 9 till 9:30, and it is on the 6th of November. Okay, so, but you'll probably find that if you search other conferences, other sessions like this, the dates might not come out correct, especially if it's on the second day. So yeah, this isn't the best way to do this, and actually this use case isn't the best, but we'll look at other stuff in another video. This is just an example. What else has been done here? So basically, we are formatting the date. We tell the agent like, yes, you need to give it in this format, and you need to pick a day either on the 6th or the 7th of November. Okay, so next step is we just want to customize. So at the moment, we still see when we have the message here, hey, how can I help you today? Let's customize that message very simply. So instead, we can pass to Copilot chat like, hey, please tell me what session you're looking for, and I will help find a session for you. So now, if I reload this, It says, hi, please tell me what you're looking for. I will help find the best sessions for you. Okay, cool. So now let's go ahead and deploy this again. Okay, and let's have a look at our deployed application. So now it says, hi, please tell me what sessions you're looking for. And let's give the standard question. We can save the iCalendar event. And let's see. Yeah, okay, cool. So we have deployed the application, we have the widget, the saving works, but it's quite slow and it's also not very accurate. So for example, if I search like, I want a session on lions and tigers. Then we still get quite a lot of results here, right? Including lunch break, robocode, panel, right? None of these are relevant to lions and tigers. Probably it should rather return, hey, we don't have any sessions on lions and tigers, right? And then also it's also going to try and do another search. So yeah, there is now an interactive task to try and make this faster and more accurate. And you can find that on the GitHub repository. If you go to task 2, optimize agent chat, and there are some hints here if you look at the presentation.